We also, in this episode, get to hear a little bit from Sasha Colby. We get a little bit of her history, and we also get a history lesson on trans people in Hawaii at a specific time. And I thoroughly enjoyed hearing what she had to say.
I definitely come from a place where we value the knowledge and wisdom of my older Mahu contemporaries. I learned so much from not just like my drag mom and other aunties, but all the things that we've had to go through as queer people.
Like in Hawaii, there was this club called the Glades, and there was trans performers, drag performers, male performers, and every Friday they would get raided by the police. This is like probably in the 60s, 70s. And back then when you were in drag, especially the trans women, had to wear a button that said, "I'm a boy," because it was illegal to trick all the military guys and stuff.
Drag performers faced jail time and hefty fines under the Intent to Deceive law of 1963. They were forced to wear a button labeling themselves as a boy, and authorities even tried to contain them within specific blocks of Chinatown.
Glade was a time of glitz and glamour. That's basically what it was.
When Jerrine Madayag entered the drag scene in the late 70s, the Glades nightclub was a safe haven.
The club's energy was just so, it was vibrant. I walked in that club when I was 17 years old. It was like we were in our own little world in that point, because when we were outside of the club, it was different.
And then all the fish girls would kind of put their hair to hide it, and then when the police would come, they would show it. But they would round up all the girls, all the performers, lock them up for Friday, then they all just get released on Saturday, and it's just for being yourself.
Yeah.
It was the epitome of glamour and fantasy, but outside, the performers were walking targets.
Even though everything is glitz and glamour, everything is beautiful and everything, you have to realize that what you see is on the inside is not really what you see on the outside.
But imagine us all getting arrested every time we finish here. Yeah. That's insane.
Sometimes the police were doing the harassing. The girls talked about that, how they would get hit on the back of the legs, back of the head with the bully sticks. It was a hard time. I have old pictures of signage, pool halls around in the area that say no mahus allowed in this restaurant. So was the oppression real? Yes. You got to remember, this is a time period of civil rights for blacks. And yet we have this going on right here in Hawaii within our own indigenous culture of mahus in Hawaii. So it was a very sad time and a very hard time.
Yeah. It's crazy when you really put it into that perspective. It's like, damn, we really are lucky, and
so lucky.
Times have really changed.
The fact that this is on such a wide scale, and it's such a fringe art form, it was made to be unseen by people because we weren't allowed in mainstream. And now look at it.
For mahus, as you know, it was you don't have job security. There's so much discrimination. You can't even get an apartment. So a lot of homeless, a lot of prostitution, and if you can get a job somewhere, it's thank you, God.
And I'm going to ask you, do you think that by having Sasha there, that she's bringing a different perspective than the younger queens?
I think Sasha has a very unique perspective for several different reasons.
Tell me.
Age.
Yes.
And experience.
Yes.
She's successful in pageant. She's successful in show bars.
Mm-hmm.
And then she also is a drag performer with trans experience. And as we all know, trans are a backbone.
Yeah.
They're an artery of the drag performance world.
And what I enjoyed this episode was also just seeing that side of Sasha. So not only is she telling her story, she's also educating the children.
Yep. We still have a long, long ways to go, but we've come a long ways from what we had before.
We have a lot to learn from this mahu community, and it's just, it's important. Yes, it can happen again, and history repeats itself. And if we don't teach our generations today what was, it will repeat itself again.
I'm just glad that Sasha is passing down some of the wisdom and experiences that were passed down to her. She's passing it forward to the next generation.
Because he's You'll cut that. Okay.